Hello everyone, welcome to my channel, Jersey Shore Pondscapes Videos. My name is Chris. Today we're going to be talking about leaks in ponds. It is definitely not the best thing in the world when you walk out to your pond and find half the water's missing. Right? It immediately sets off this panic reaction, like, oh my gosh, what happened? What's going on? Where's this? Okay, so unfortunately, occasionally here and there, it does happen. Okay, I get a lot of phone calls from people, saying, hey, do you fix leaks? I have a leak in my pond. So it can be something easy. It could be something really difficult to find. All right. As definitely, I'm not going to paint this, with a happy face all the time. Pond leaks can be from a variety of causes, and sometimes they're really, really difficult to find. So, somebody calls me, says, my pond is leaking. I woke up this morning, it was down, 8 inches of water. So I go over to the house. What are the first things that I'm going to look for? Well, obviously, any sign of water outside of the pond, okay? I'm going to look around the waterfall or a stream or whatever they have, and we're going to look for any water coming around the outside of those rocks. We're going to look for water maybe near a pump or filter system. Okay, but typically, mostly, if there's going to be a visible sign of a leak, it's going to be back behind or along the sides of a waterfall or stream, or it's going to be around the filter system, the pumps and UV lights or anything like that. Okay, any kind of piping. That's the easiest to find. Sometimes it's as easy as I'll walk back around the side of a waterfall and I'll see some water. I'll see it's wet on the outside. And I can immediately say, I got something here, right? And I start moving some rocks around. And maybe you find a piece of the liner on the side of the waterfall that got pushed in or settled down, or a rock fell on top and the water's coming out that way. And it could just be as easy as picking up a couple rocks, pulling that liner back up and pushing a couple rocks behind it, and you're done. That's the best case scenario, okay? Maybe if it's a pipe or some fitting or something that came apart, somewhere, and you see the water coming out, well, you just have to fix that fitting or, replace a section of that pipe. That's easy too, okay? But sometimes we don't have any visible signs of water outside of the pond. Sometimes a waterfall could leak and the water goes down behind the rocks and then down behind the liner underneath the pond. Okay? Sometimes the pond liner in the pond will raise and float up because of all the water underneath it. And if the water's underneath it, then we need to figure where it's coming from, okay? So, if I don't see any visible signs of water in the pond, I can't go up to somebody's house and go to the pond and see water flowing someplace, then my next step is fill the pond up with water, mark the water level, and shut the pumps off. Hopefully we have an air system, an aeration system, that air pump we can put in the pond temporarily, because we're going to shut down the pumps, the waterfalls, the filters, and everything. Okay. Put your air system in the pond, shut it all down, mark your water level, and come back 24 hours later. Maybe it might take more than 24 hours. Maybe give it 2 days and see if that water level drops. If the water level in your pond drops with nothing, no pumps, filters, anything, waterfalls running, we know that there's got to be a leak in the pond liner itself. Okay? If we shut everything off and the pond holds its water perfectly, we know there's nothing wrong with the pond liner. It's got to be somewhere in the process of pulling the water out to the pump, filter system, and back to the waterfall. Okay, so it's not the pond, it's got to either be something in the plumbing or in the waterfall. All right, so it's kind of a process of elimination. Sometimes if we narrow it down and say it's got to be something in the waterfall, maybe there are some areas of the waterfall where we can divide into sections. Maybe there's a couple ball valves that come up. Maybe one comes up over there, one comes up over here. If that's the case, maybe we shut one down and let the other one run and see if it leaks that way. If it does, maybe we shut that one down and open this one and try that. It's just got to be a process of elimination. It's easier to take a day, an extra day, and close some valves or try different things like this than it is to just rip out the whole waterfall and hope you find something. Okay? Now, with ponds that have rocks and gravel in them, finding a hole in the liner can be a nightmare. All right, it can be a nightmare. Either way, if your pond has rocks and gravel in it, or it doesn't, and it's just plain liner, if your pond level drops with all your pumps and waterfalls and everything off, you know that there's a hole in your liner. So what we need to do at this point is we're going to let that water keep dropping. All right? Hopefully it will stop at a level somewhere before it gets to the bottom. Okay? If the water level keeps dropping and dropping and dropping, okay, remember we need to keep an air pump in this pond as this, especially in the summer. But when we shut our pumps and filters and waterfalls off, we need to provide air in this water or all the fish are going to die as well. So always be sure to keep an air pump in there. But as the water level in the pond drops and leaks and leaks and leaks, if it stops at a certain level, and we don't have to remove all the fish, okay, that would be good, better. Where our water level stops is roughly could be the level where there's a hole. Now keep in mind that if I have a hole right here on the top of this chair, just say this is the level I have a hole. If my pond water is filled up to here, there's a lot of pressure from here down to the hole that's pushing water out, okay? So as this water level drops, the pressure to push the water out that hole gets less and less. So it might come all the way down to maybe about here, maybe 2-3 inches above my hole. And it's going to seem like the pond is kind of holding at that spot, right? It's kind of like, the water leak now is really slow, right? Because there's not a lot of pressure to have to push all that water out. So we know if my water level stops right about here, that my hole is probably within, an inch or two of where that water level stopped. Okay, so that's when we need to look all around our pond at that level. Now, if the pond is full of rocks and gravel, good luck. All right, good luck trying to pull this out. Then you've got to look for some area of the pond where the rock work and stuff may have been compromised. Maybe some rocks fell into the pond. Maybe something fell in and poked a hole in the liner someplace. Otherwise, your guess is as good as mine. It could be anywhere, all right? If you don't have rocks and gravel and you have just nice liner, okay, you can go all around the pond with your hand and feel around and look closely at that liner. The worst case scenario is you've got a lot of algae build up on your liner and it's hard to find that little hole. But you will be able to find it if you feel around with your fingers. And another little trick is if you have water leaking through the liner, the dirt behind that liner is going to be really soft, right? It's going to be like mud. So if you're in the pond and you're feeling that pond liner and you feel all that dirt behind the liner, it's all nice and solid. It's nice and hard back here. It's nice and, oh, wait a minute, over here? Oh man, it's a little softer here. Like this, I can push this liner, it's a little mushy. That right there that's good. Okay, that's what we try to want to look for, something like that. Okay. Yeah. So once you find a hole, if the pond is a rubber liner, an EPDM liner, it's very easy to patch. Your pond stores and online or wherever you want, you can find patch kits for the rubber liner. And it's basically a little glue adhesive and a patch that glues right on. Just make sure that this surface area that you are putting your patch on is really nice and clean. All right, scrub it down with a brush, clean as much algae off it as you can. Maybe with a little rubbing alcohol or something, you can clean that liner off. Just don't get it all in the pond, but get that area nice and clean before you put your glue and your patch on. All right, but it's really fairly easy to do. It's really a pretty simple process, and the hardest part is finding the hole. Okay, yeah, so that's really the best advice I can give you. Now, if it's something in the waterfall, things to look for. Spray foam is really commonly used in waterfalls. A lot of landscapers and some pond guys use this spray foam to adhese all the rocks together in your waterfall. It is kind of waterproof, right? Once you spray it and it dries, it does hold the water inside. It doesn't allow the water to leak. The problem is this spray foam does not last for long. It starts to dry rot and deteriorate after a couple years. So as it starts to dry rot and deteriorate, the water can seep through it. All right. Once it's seeping through it, it's leaking out all over. So that's a common thing with waterfalls. Another thing I find around ponds, another cause for a lot of leaks, are chipmunks. Okay, chipmunks for some reason love the taste of rubber liner. Don't ask me, I don't know, but they chew big holes in the liner. They'll burrow in the rocks, they'll dig their little hole out in the rocks on the side of the pond, and they chew through the liner. So again, it can be patched, it can be fixed. Be careful with your patches, okay? If you have a large hole and you put a patch over it, all right? We don't want any water and moisture on the opposite side, the back side of the hole, to come through and hit the glue on that patch. All right, so typically what I'll do then is I'll just take another little piece of pond liner, like another little square of pond liner, and put it behind my liner with the hole, behind the hole, so that it's nice and clean and dry, and then I can put my patch on in the front. Okay, just another idea there for you, a little tip. All right, so what else? Usually leaks can be easy to find and fix. But sometimes, if they're down inside that waterfall someplace, if a chipmunk burrowed down underneath the back of a waterfall, underneath somewhere, and dug a hole through the liner, it could be a pain to try to find it and fix it. But typically, leaks are scary at first, but they can be fixed rather easily once they're found. Now, the bigger the hole, the better, obviously. Okay. Now, the reason why I say that is if I have somebody call me, I didn't build their pond. I'm not familiar with their pond. I don't know what they have, but they tell me, you know what? I have a leak. My pond drops 10 inches overnight, and I'm like, okay, good. And what do you mean good? No, because the more water you're losing, the bigger the hole has to be, okay? The easier it is to find. Finding a pinhole is really hard. Finding a 3-inch cut in a piece of liner is a lot easier, okay? So the more water you're losing, hopefully the easier it is to find, okay? And then we can repair it, fix it, all right? So there's just a few ideas, a couple things to think about. If you have a hole, if you're losing water in your pond, some things to look for. Definitely process of elimination, okay? Shut your pumps off, your filters and all that, fill the pond up, see if the pond goes down with nothing running. If it holds, you know it's something outside, like the waterfall or the plumbing, okay? If the pond leaks with nothing running, you know it's in the liner, all right? So, try to do a little process of elimination. I'm warning you, it can be quite tedious and it could take a long time to find some of these holes, especially if your pond is all covered with rock and gravel. All right, I have a whole video on ponds with rock and gravel versus ponds with bottom drains where I talk about all that kind of stuff as well. But I think just common sense would tell you that if you haven't just a plain liner all around your pond, it's going to be a lot easier to find a hole than if you have all kinds of rocks and boulders and everything, covering it. So definitely keep that in mind. All right. I hope I helped you out a little bit. Good luck finding your leaks. Hopefully, maybe you'll never have one, and everything will be good. All right. Please hit the like button on my channel if the video helped you out. Hit subscribe to my channel if you're looking for a lot more information on koi ponds and waterfalls and everything you can think about. I'm going to be making videos for. So please check it all out. It really helps me out a lot and keeps me making more videos. And thank you, and hopefully we'll see you again soon. Take care.